It's no secret that work choices will be a key issue in this election campaign, but it's also a perfect example of how crucial people's choice is. Because Australia is not saddled with work choices because John Howard won government at the last election. Australians are saddled with work choices because John Howard won control of the Senate at the last election, and it is the Senate which is the key to the future of our workplace laws. Anyone with common sense knows that work choices must go. Hearing that, clapping that, statements like that, that's the easy part. The crucial task is getting the replacement laws right. Common sense dictates that we need a single national set of workplace laws which restore balance and fairness to the workplace. It was the no disadvantage test, a genuine safety net put in place by the Democrats, which enabled more flexibility in the workplace without reducing entitlements. This safety net was shredded by the Howard government as soon as it got the opportunity in the Senate, and it has not been replaced. We need a strong, independent umpire to prevent exploitation and misuse of power by all sides, and the record shows that it is only the Democrats who will balance the interests of employer, employee, subcontractor, union official, the unemployed, the nation as a whole. Something we did successfully and consistently during both the Keating and the Howard governments. The makeup of the Senate will be crucial to much more than just our future workplace laws. If you want to stop nuclear power in Australia, well, it can't go ahead without Senate approval. It is a rarely acknowledged fact that it was the Democrats who put the current prohibitions against nuclear power and uranium enrichment into our federal environment laws. Climate change is not all going to be fixed by blaming everybody else, by blaming governments, or by calling on others to fix it. It's going to be fixed in part through all of us changing our own behaviours. And it's particularly up to those who advocate major emission reductions to show personal leadership. I announced last year my goal to make this election year a carbon neutral one, and to publicly detail my own efforts to reduce my own greenhouse emissions wherever possible and offsetting the rest. When politicians talk about the need for action, I think it's particularly important that we show our willingness to take action as well. When politicians talk of any sort of numbers, they also usually talk about tax sometime or other in the mix, and election years in particular. The easiest thing for any government to do is to hand back some of the extra tax they've gained through inflation, whilst calling them tax cuts and making themselves just look generous. What we need, what the Democrats have continually pushed for since the 1980s, and which I'll continue to push, particularly regarding the balance of power position in the Senate, is for indexation of the income tax threshold, especially for the lowest income earners, so they get those tax cuts, they retain the value with inflation and wage rises. So after all that, people are still asking, well, but why the Democrats? Why Bartlett? Let me give you one more example, especially relevant to Queensland. In southeast Queensland, we're in the midst of water restrictions due to low rainfall and abysmal planning by the state government. The same government who is now trying to build the socially and environmentally destructive, not to mention extremely expensive and unreliable, Traveston and Wyaralong dams. The fact is that the only hope of stopping this destruction, this waste of money, is through the Federal Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. And it is also a fact that this law would not be there without the Democrats. So I was one of those that helped pass it, carriage of the debate through the Senate in 1999, and I well remember the strident criticism directed at us and me, from Bob Brown no less, saying that this Democrat-strengthened legislation was, and I quote, the most disgusting sellout of the Australian environment that this Senate chamber has ever seen, which was supporting the chainsaws and signing a death warrant for the forest. Have we not stood firm in the face of those and many other attacks? and let there be no doubt there was a political price in us doing so. Many environmental victories would not have been achieved, never as many as we would like, but those would not have happened, including stopping the slaughter of endangered flying foxes in northern Queensland, the halting of the Nathan Dam in Queensland, preventing rainforest logging on Christmas Island. And indeed, Bob Brown himself used this legislation, the law that he called the death warrant for the forests, to win a court victory last year which stopped logging in the Wailanger forests in Tasmania, a win he then called the most critical milestone for Australia's rapidly eroding environment since the Franklin Dam case in 1983. I'm very pleased to have that win, but if I bow to the political pressure and abuse that was applied in 1999, that critical milestone, those wins would not have occurred. And I would emphasise the chance of stopping these dumb dams being built here in Queensland would be zero. The chance is still there to stop those dams, and we must do all we can to encourage the people of Brisbane and South East Queensland to add their voices to stop that tragic mistake. My record shows that I'm prepared to cop the flak and risk unpopularity, making the hard decisions when I know it will deliver results, when I believe it's the right thing to do, whether for the environment or for those in the community who just need a fair go, who need to be heard. This federal election fight will be like no other. Queensland will be a key battleground. Much as it pains me to say it, and as Senator Cherry, former Senator Cherry, noted earlier, it was Queensland voters last election, through the loss of this seat, who gave the country a coalition-controlled Senate. The Democrats have been a force for positive, progressive change in Australian politics for 3 decades. But if the results of that last election from 2004 are repeated, that voice will disappear from the Parliament. I accept that we made some serious mistakes in the years leading up to that election, and unlike some, I admit my mistakes and I learn from them. I don't shrink from the Democrats being held to a higher standard than others. Indeed, I welcome it. People expect more from us than they do from the other parties, and they're right to. God knows we need higher standards than what they provide. And when Don Chipp, the founder of our party, died last year, the news was full of old clips from those early days of the Democrats. And some of you may recall one of those news clips which to me really summed it up. Don Chipp looking straight at him and saying, "You, men and women of goodwill, you can change the world. You can, and you have. We all have. You, the people in this room, are part of something very important, potentially very special. Whether you are members of the party, whether you're friends, supporters, fellow campaigners on issues of importance to you, we have all worked to make the world a better place, and our efforts are most effective to have an effective Parliament, an effective independent Senate, and effective democracy.